Hello friends, this is Coldrun. Welcome back to Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker. We are here in the Alamegan Quarter ready to continue with the healer role quest. Blasphemy Hunter, a new battleground. The quest to protect vulnerable Alamegans leads to Ul'dah. Blasphemy Hunter, here to see Commander Aldine, I take it. This way, please. Rauban, our request for an audience with the Sultana has been accepted. Before we depart, I'll share what we've learned since we last spoke. The blasphemy continues to elude us, all the while driving others to succumb to despair and turn. Even with Alamegan and Ul'dah forces searching for the signs of the beast, and more potential victims we've yet to discern a pattern in the chaos. Nevertheless, if our blasphemy is like others, its behavior is likely dictated by the passions and regrets of the man it once was. Therefore, any information concerning him, the life he led, may help us track it down before it strikes again. Seems reasonable. It worked in Ishgard. Arenvald. We don't want people to shun the families of the skulls any more than they already are, but the fact remains that the vast majority of the beasts have been born from them. They're the ones at greatest risk of turning, without question. That's rough. That's really rough. Fordola concerns me too. She came close to transforming once before, so I think it might be best if we keep her out of this after all. That ... tells me she's not going to take too kindly to that thought. Oh, no. She deserves a chance to make amends. She seems like a waste of a capable soldier. She deserves a chance to make amends. I don't think I need to be practical about this. And I think she'd want that risk. I think she deserves at least the choice about it. Rauban. I'm inclined to agree with Kakushu. She was able to resist the transformation and has shown no signs of succumbing since then. If she wants to do her part, I say we let her. Yeah, I think it's fine I think it's fine for her to have the choice, even though he's worried about it. Arenvald, if only I could go in her stead. Yeah, yeah. Yep. He feels guilty. I don't know if guilt is right, but feels like he's not taking the responsibility he could or should, and boy do I disagree with that, but I get it. Rauban, actually I was hoping you'd come with us to meet the Sultana. I believe she would benefit greatly from your understanding of the struggles our people face. You'd gain from the experience too. While she's not the sort to brandish a sword and charge into battle, you'll soon discover she's a champion of her own arena, as brave as any warrior. That's a great point. Yeah, he's used to seeing that as the only form of strength, or as the main form of strength, and yeah, boy, if that little tomato, if anyone can show you the value, other than Minfilia, because Minfilia was one of, I turned around on Minfilia. I used to really get, I don't know, a little bit annoyed by her when I see her, but I like the idea of, like, people like her and Tataru who are able to wield non-combat strength, and boy, the Sultana counts as that. Arenvald. I doubt she'd have much to learn from the likes of me, but it would be an honor to make her acquaintance. Rauban, Arenvald and I will go on ahead and wait for you in the hustings strip. We'll see you anon. Alright, see you in a bit. Sucks for you that I get to warp over and you don't get to do that. You have to take the long way. Arenvald. It's the first time I've been back here since I discharged myself from the infirmary without telling anybody, mind. I must remember to stop by and offer my thanks and an apology. I don't think they're gonna have taken offense. Papashan. I only let her out of my sight for a moment. Oh, is she coming to meet us? I thought we were assumed we were going to go see her. I didn't think she'd even come out this far. Rauban. Master Papashan was just telling us that Nanamo, or should I say Lady Lilira. Oh, okay, right, she's in disguise, gotcha. Lady Lilira has gone on another of her jaunts about the city. Papashan, though it is not my place to question her Grace's judgment, I do wish she had consulted me before running off on her own. And perhaps I'm overthinking it, but it's unlike her to keep guests waiting. Oh, you think something's worried? Something's wrong? Arenvald, If I may say so, sir, with blasphemies appearing throughout the land, it's a dangerous time to be going for a stroll. Papashan. I suspect that may be the very reason. She wishes to see for herself how the citizenry fare in these trying times. Raoban. Even so, it's downright reckless. We'll find her, though. I am so small. Next to Raoban. Papashan. No, I couldn't possibly allow such esteemed guests to... Raoban. Come now. We may be here on official business, but we're old friends. And as you may remember, I have a knack for tracking down errant sultanas. Yeah, I think that was like the very first quest I did in Final Fantasy XIV, or not the very first one, but that was one of the first main ones, right? Was to find her, and Raoban was like helped me do it. Papashan. Some might say knack is a rather charitable. Anyway, I should be glad of the assistance. Arenvald. I'll take a look around here. Quizzing the locals will give me an opportunity to learn of recent goings-on in Old Atu. Raoban. Well then, there's no time like the present. Fear not, with me on the case, this will be over before you know it. I had him turn more casual in that little voice piece than I intended. Arenvald. If she's supposed to be meeting us here, maybe we should wait for her to come to us? I thought you were going to go interview people. Papashan. Just between you and me, Raoban has never had much luck at finding Lady Lilira. Rather the opposite. Oh. I didn't know that. I guess I didn't even think of that. Rather the opposite, which isn't to say he's misrepresenting his capabilities. Perhaps his recollection of events simply differs somewhat from reality. Again, that was so long ago that if that was a characteristic of like him chasing her and not finding her, I'd totally forgotten it. Any luck, Raoban? It's been some time since I last combed these streets for young Lilira. As a matter of fact, Papashan and I would compete for which of us could find her first. As I recall, most of the contests ended in my favor. Sounds like you might be misremembering, or Papashan is a dirty, dirty liar. The trick, you see, is to look past the disguise and pay attention to the gestures, the mannerisms, the tiniest movement that might give her away. Come, I'll show you how it's done. Follow Raoban's lead and try not to fall behind. Okay. Follow my lead. He has such dignity, and here I am with my little arms flailing to the side. She's fond of perusing the stalls here. I don't see anyone who looks Lilira-ish. If she's not here, where could she be? Is she a pot watcher usually? What if she's been abducted? I hope not. And I don't think she's one to fall into despair herself. In one of the pots, perhaps? Perhaps not. Boy, you really do suck at looking if you're starting to look for her in pots. Papashan was right. I'm starting to believe him more than you. I've never known her to be this elusive. So maybe we should be a little bit worried right now. That's odd. I've tried all her usual haunts. The pot stall, and the stall next to it, and nothing. So unless she's hiding inside a barrel, or something, like really nonsensical, she must be elsewhere. Gods, why did she choose now, of all times, to run off? What if she's been abducted or run afoul of a beast? This makes me think that that has not happened. No need to assume the worst, we should keep looking. Let's try asking around. I don't know if we want to raise suspicion. Let's just keep looking. I guess that could involve asking around. You're right, I know, but it's hard not to worry. Where could she be? Come to think of it, something Papashan said caught my ear. He thought Nanamo went on this excursion because of the emergence of the blasphemy and the beasts, to better understand how her people are coping with the situation. That's right, she's not going out here like just to get a break and go like shop around. She's going out here to talk to people. So, yeah. If so, she'd be driven to seek out the most desperate and destitute. Pearl Lane, then. Might I ask you to lead the way? I'll admit my ability to track missing persons might have dulled somewhat. Sure. Where are we going? Where's Pearl Lane? Raoban. Pearl Lane has ever been plagued by pickpockets and the like. I'll watch your back, so go ahead and give the search for Lilira your full attention. Okay. Where is Pearl Lane? Oh, there's Pearl Lane. And it looks like we can talk to people as we go. Or no, these are the new markings of when you can talk to Raubon. That I love that they put that in. Some say money can't buy you happiness, but they've never tried living without it. Those who call Pearl Lane home have never had the luxury of choice. The city's poorest live here, and as such are at greater risk of turning. Knowing this, I expect Lilira came to learn from their plight. I think that sounds likely. About Pearl Lane. While it may not be immediately obvious, conditions here have improved considerably of late. Her Grace continues to support the rebuilding efforts in Girabania, which has led to the creation of jobs for many of the locals, both here and on the other side of Baelsar's wall. Good. Look, as far as benevolent dictators go, I do feel like the Sultana's benevolent, but, you know, still get on that Republic thing. Ask about the poor. In every society there are haves and have-nots, and seldom is this divide more sorely felt than here in Ul'dah. Many of the young and able-bodied work for Lilira as guards, though he earns more in an afternoon than most will in a lifetime. Yeah, that sounds very much like Ul'dah and Lilira. I love the city, but boy does it have problems. Oh, there she is. Nana, Lady Lilira. Raubon, whatever are you doing here? Hello, Lilira. And Kukushu, too. While I'm glad to see you both, our meeting is not yet due to commence for several bells. What is the meaning of this? Is it? Really? Why are we overreacting, then? Raubon, we were worried, and I thought she was late. I thought that was the reason we were looking. We were worried, and with good reason. These are far too dangerous times to be roaming about alone, Your Grace. Lilira, some things never change, but I assure you, I am quite capable of looking after myself, in my own city of all places. I believe her. More importantly, I wish to observe firsthand how the people have been faring of late, that I might be better prepared to participate in our discussion later. But I have finished, and you will be comforted to hear. Then pray allow us to escort you to more amenable surroundings. Would you care to ride on my shoulder? The friggin' parrot. Oh my god. Lilira. Certainly not. You've already attracted more than enough attention. Yeah, seriously, if you're trying to keep a low profile, having Lilira ride on your shoulder is like the one way to know that everyone will know it's her. Unless you have a habit of just randomly offering Lalafels like shoulder-back rides. Arenvald. I had every faith you and the commander would find her. Papashan. I have a feeling the search would have taken rather longer if Raubon had been left to his own devices. I guess, I mean, he did come... I helped a little bit, but it's not like I'm penny to his Inspector Gadget. He's not like a bumbling, incompetent searcher. That's me. If you've seen my Subnautica playthrough, you will know I am the world's worst person at finding anything. There she is, tomatoed out. Nanamol Namo. Thank you for making the journey to here during these difficult times. And it is my pleasure to properly make your acquaintance. On behalf of the people of Eorzea, allow me to express my sincerest gratitude for your continued dedication to our cause. Oh, he's shy. Arenvald, with respect, Your Grace, I'm just a soldier. Was a soldier. Nanamo. Still, I say, Commander Aldine would not make such a distinction, and neither will I. You yet serve your people, and have provided solace to many of Alamigo's most vulnerable. If we are to deal with this threat, we must forearm ourselves with knowledge. I understand you come bearing information regarding the blasphemy and its victims. Raubon, we have indeed. Nanamo Namo.
Hence the need to locate families of Crania Lupi members who have fled to Thanalan. There is no end to the struggles faced by Alamegan refugees, and those who once pledged allegiance to the Empire are no exception. But rest assured that, irrespective of their pasts, all will be treated with an even hand. All will be afforded such aid as I am able to provide.
Arenvald seems surprised. I'm not sure why. This isn't out of character for the Sultana. Rauban, magnanimous as always, your grace.
Yes, I am.
Arenvald, if I may be so bold, I have a question. What do you have in mind for those most at risk of undergoing the change? It's a good question.
Nanamo Namo, I believe there is but one recourse.
How do you cure their despair?
Earnest and open dialogue.
Yeah, I guess it's basically like therapy. You have to give them therapy.
Well, some are born into
well, not therapy, but you have to let them have an impact. You have to take away despair. Take away the feeling that there's no options.
While some are born into unimaginable wealth, others suffer great hardship and depression. The circumstances of our birth are beyond our control. Our fates subject to the whims of the gods, some would argue. I once thought myself a prisoner to my fate, a figurehead helpless to watch as my people starved, a powerless puppet I wanted nothing more than to cast it all aside, to free us all, but failed for my naivety, and then was afforded a second chance for my privilege.
I'm just thinking, was she... excuse me. And I get that. I guess I'd forgotten how much the royalists were really not in power compared to the monetarists. But even so, like I guess she's saying that she thought that casting it aside to free us all would have, but she's not saying that was a bad move. She's saying that she did it badly. And there was afforded a second chance for my privilege. The world is unfair, terribly so, but we have the power to push back against inequalities and injustices, if not overcome them on blessed occasions, to love our neighbor and share in life's bounties, to open our hearts and come together as one. Raban, truer words were never spoken. So is she still trying to... Because, again, I have the world's worst memory, as you know, and so if she has actually been trying to make it a republic and doing all she can, my bad. I just assume that she's just like, no, maybe it's best for now that I stay Sultana. And not maliciously. I think she's doing it because she believes it's best, but I don't know that I agree. Nanamo.
But without the support of the people, such words are naught but vain platitudes. Thankfully, my recent attempts to make inroads with the monetarists have met with some success. Despite differing views on many subjects, we yet strive to find common ground.
Arenvald, common ground. We've been pouring all our efforts into aiding families of the Craniolupi, and while it seemed to help to a degree, some have still succumbed and turned. Of course, they're not the only ones in danger. Alamegans everywhere, whether they sided with the Empire, fought for the Resistance, or were caught in the middle, they all suffered. They all wake up in the night, at times haunted by memories of death and despair. We know what can happen if those feelings are left to fester. We do. Nanamo.
The legacy of the Imperial occupation will not soon be forgotten, but rather than seek to forget, mayhap it is necessary to remember, to acknowledge and accept the truth of it, that they may properly mourn those they have lost.
Arenvald, aye. A remembrance. Oh, is that what we're going to do? Are we going to hold like a memorial, like that sort of thing? Arenvald, I propose we hold a memorial ceremony for those who died during the war. Everyone, no matter who they were or what they did. Let them be loved, let them be hated, but above all, let them be remembered. And in the remembering of the dead, in their honor and their sin, we the living of Alamigo may yet find a sliver of common ground. It's a dangerous but bold move. Rauban, it's a noble sentiment, but Bringing people together who have reason to distrust one another and risk inflaming tensions could be a recipe for disaster. Then again, we can't keep ignoring the Marid in the room and do nothing to address the situation. As long as we leave it to the individuals to decide whether or not to attend the ceremony, I think it's worth a try. Yeah, don't make this mandatory. Organizing an event of this scale will require a great deal of effort, so I offer my full support. Once you know what's needed, come to me and we'll put the plan into action.
It's a good idea. Arenvald, obviously some will balk at the idea, which is perfectly understandable, so I'll be listening to their opinions as well. After all, we want it to be a ceremony that brings all Amigans together.
Nod, nod.
Arenvald, and I was wondering, Your Grace, if I might ask about your approach to, well, talking to people, winning them over. As you can tell, I'm no politician, so I'd be grateful for any advice you can share with me.
Nanamo.
Why, I would be delighted to. As a matter of fact, I have a number of matters I wish to discuss with you.
I like this connection. I am a fan. Raoban, and on that note, I suggest you and I return to Alamigo. And so the political career of Arenvald begins.
Nanamo. The relationship between Ul'dah and Alamigo is one which I cherish deeply. It is imperative that we coordinate our efforts in facing this crisis.
Agreed. Arenvald. Wonder what Abba and Ali would say if I could tell them I had a chat with the Sultana. Can hardly believe it myself. Papashan?
To see the Sultana grow to become such a capable and compassionate leader, it brings a tear to the eye. She was always compassionate, but she is a much more capable leader than she was before. At least in A Realm Reborn.
Blasphemy Hunter. No. Raoban. I knew Arenvald would make a good impression, but he's outdone himself. Not only has he found a new avenue in life to explore, he's taken to it with considerable aplomb. Good word. And while his proposed memorial ceremony is bound to have its detractors, I have faith that many will come around. Not all, but enough, I pray.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what this would be like if... I guess I don't know, like in... I would be... Because this is not something I think that would be done on Earth, like in the real world, that often. Like, can you imagine... I guess I don't know enough about post-World War II history, but, like, in France, would they have... I can't imagine that they just have a memorial service for that would include the collaborators as much, and, like, the Vichy government and collaborators as much as the freedom fighters, those who fought against the Nazis. I mean, they're framing it, though, not as, like, honoring both sides. They're framing it as remembering both sides. And for their sin or honor, whichever is needed. And it's real. I really like it. It's just, I don't know if this has a real-world mirror to it. And while for our part, we must stand at the ready for whatever may occur. I shall send word if there are any developments. Send word right now, because I am level 90. Laying the past to rest, Arenvald wishes to put your considerable reputation to good use. There you are, Kakushu. Commander Aldine has asked me to convey to you the following information. At present, we are looking into reports of missing relatives of the Cranialupi. With the cooperation of the Silver Griffins, we are currently searching for any clues as to their whereabouts. Thanks to the concerted efforts of Ragnfrid and the others, the general public has been willing to cooperate with our investigation. Though many still harbor feelings of distrust for the collaborators and their kin, reasonably, they've grown more receptive to our cause on the whole. Arenvald has been making steady progress in preparing for the memorial ceremony. He plans to host a meeting between the various community leaders to go over the finer details. In fact, he was wondering whether you could assist in delivering the invitations. If you can spare the time, you should be able to find him in the Mercantile District. Anyway, that's all for now. I have a few other matters to attend to, so if you'll excuse me, duty calls. So you Blasphemy Hunter. Also, I love Blasphemy Hunter's gear. It's like that, like, hunter outdoorsman with a skirt, and I think that's really cool.
Here we are, Arenvald in the Mercantile District. Thanks for coming. It should become as no surprise that planning a memorial ceremony for a whole bloody nation would keep a man busy, but by Ralgar, this is something else. The hardest part's been gathering information on those who died in the war, especially when it comes to the skulls and other conscripts. They're the ones we need to treat most carefully. If we don't acknowledge the crimes of our kin and all their painful truth, then we do a disservice to the victims, living and dead. But if we let people paint them as monsters who did monstrous things we believe we would never do, then we perpetuate a different but no less dangerous lie. Boy, do I feel this. And this is especially an issue in in America. And I won't go too deep into specifics, but into specific politics, but there's a thing for any non-Americans here, there's a very big thing in American culture where if something is bad and that bad thing has like a foreign parallel and a local and a domestic parallel, people will often use the foreign parallel. When there's some kind of super when people are mocking someone for being theocratic in the US, even on the left, oftentimes they'll say they're doing a jihad, they're being like the Taliban, but that's a way to distance yourself from sins that are much more local. And yeah, this speaks to me. This really speaks to me. Anyway, Arenvald, as for preparing the event itself, I'll be holding a meeting with members from each of the settlements around Girabania. I've sent invitations to most of them already, but I was hoping you'd help me with the last two. There's Mraz Noon in the Peering Stones and Sarisha in Viranilia. I'll give you one for each. Okay. Let's get delivering. Let's do a literal fetch. Well, it's not a literal fetch, but it's still a delivery quest. To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if they refused, considering how their people suffered at the hands of the skulls. But I hope we can remind them that deep down, we're all just people trying to survive, to protect our loved ones. We may have driven the Empire from our lands, but as long as we hold fast to the grudges born of their attempts to divide and set us against one another, we'll never be free of their legacy of cruelty. That's tricky. That's a tricky thing, but I see the line he's trying to thread. With that in mind, I've included an account of my experiences with the Silver Griffins and the people I've met. Victims, collaborators, their friends and their family, men and women who lived through it all, survivors. Even if they refuse to join the ceremony, at least they will know, and hopefully understand our reasons for holding the event. Granted, I've not had much practice in writing important letters, but I think they'll get the message. You being the one to deliver them will make a world of difference, I'm sure. Take care, won't you? I am quite something. I am one of the people that had a major role in freeing the place, so I don't blame him for relying on that, for hoping that will have an impact. Mraz Nun. Greetings, friend. It's been too long since we last spoke. What brings you to my village? Something you're not going to like. Arenvald's invitation, the weight of the words within is almost tangible. In addition to the weight of the paper itself, so very formal. Like resume stock paper. Sorry, my throat is really something. Mraz Nun. So the rumors are true. I need not read this letter in full to know its contents. I understand that Ragnfrid's volunteers are working to support the families of those lost in the war, which few will deny is a worthy cause, but to include the relatives of the Cronia Lupi. The Skulls watched the Empire slay us in our thousands, and still they turned their cloaks and fought with our oppressors. And you would ask us to mourn the deaths of those curs alongside their victims? I'm so sorry, just something in my throat. I ask only that you read the rest of the letter. You have every right to be angry and refuse. Arenvald only wishes that you read his account before coming into a decision. Yep. Just validate that. To dismiss it out of hand would be discourteous. Very well. Putting his diplomacy to the test, Arenvald. Family. As Nun, my tribe is my family, and I know all too well the responsibility that brings. I would do anything to protect them. Anything. Loyalty, pride, conscience. My very soul. All are meaningless if I cannot ensure the safety of those I love. I suspected some skulls have been faced with the self-same choice, but to see how their kin has suffered, I cannot say I do not understand. I wish I did not. Their crimes will never be forgiven. They cannot be, but I and many others who are willing can offer our prayers for those tortured souls and the men they could have been. That's a great way to put it, and this is something the game has been consistently really good at, especially in what is still my favorite arc in everything. Shadowbringers, Realm Reborn, Endwalker, everything, is the Yotsuyu line. How they managed that balance. Miraz Nun. I accept the invitation. Not on behalf of the M tribe, but as Miraz Nun, though I will put the question to my people that they may decide for themselves. I am also eager to make the acquaintance of the person who wrote this letter. He is not wont to turn a blind eye to the bitter truth, painful though it is to confront. The meeting will be the perfect opportunity to take his measure. Good. Mission accomplished, Arenvald. Nice job. Hello, cat. Sarisha. Welcome. To what do they owe the pleasure of your visit? I never know how sneaky to make their voices. Like how much to make them like your visit. Like I don't know. I don't want to do that because I don't think they have snake tongues, do they? I think they've just snake bottom halves. Have we ever heard a voice acting from... I guess we've heard a couple of voice acting elements from the Ananta. And it is as I suspected. Yeah, no, I guess they do have a little bit snaky tongue. There have been rumors that such a ceremony would take place. Although you have traveled far to make this invitation, I must decline. We cannot mourn the loss of the fallen in the Crania Lupi if we are to be counted among them. Like the Kalyana, they chose to aid the Garlean oppressors, killing and bleeding for those who would pillage our lands. Cowards and traitors all. And are we to assume that the Kalyana who died fighting for the Empire will be honored as well? If so, that is all the more reason for us to refuse. Again, that is your right, and no one will say otherwise. I come only to present a letter and ask that you read it in full. Or Arenvald understands and accepts you might refuse. His only request is that you read his account and then decide. Yeah, I think I'll go with that is your right. I'll do this as from me. Rather than just being Arenvald, saying, you know, this is what Arenvald says. Sarisha, if you insist. I don't think they'll do this, but I'll be curious if one of them just ends up refusing and says, like, no, I'm going to... Thanks, you've offered me the right to refuse, and I'm going to take it. I don't think they're going to do that, but... Sarisha, no one was spared in the suffering and the occupation. Not the resistance, not the collaborators, not the families of both. No one. That so many would die in shame and ignominy, having sold their souls only to lose everything, is a tragedy and a lesson. If they are forgotten, then the lesson of their folly is forgotten. For the sake of this land we call home, I will join you in remembrance, and implore my people to do the same. In mourning may we strengthen our ties with our neighbors as well. By together facing our past, we can build a foundation for lasting peace and prosperity. It would be my honor to attend the proposed meeting, and I look forward to personally thanking your friend Arenvald for his dedication. I and my peers have much to learn from the example he has set. It's a pleasant surprise. It's not a surprise in a game meta sense, but it is a pleasant surprise for Kokushu, I expect. Arenvald. So, how did you fare on the fringes? Quite well. quite well.
They said that about me. It's rare to get such glowing praise, especially from renowned leaders like Sarisha and Raznun. More importantly, though, they agreed to attend the meeting, and I've got to thank you for that. I got you to thank for that. After all, I imagine it's hard to turn down an invitation when it's hand-delivered by the Warrior of Light herself. Before I get ahead of myself, though, I must remember this is only the beginning. Bringing everyone together is one thing. Coming to an agreement on an extremely divisive issue is a different kettle of fish entirely, as Her Grace was quick to point out. Oh, you're going to name drop. Yeah, so in my discussions with the Sultana herself, but as she's taught me, it's our cause. If our cause is just and our hearts are true, those of like mind will surely answer the call. And answer they have. While there are bound to be differences of opinion, I'm sure there's nothing we can't overcome if we put our minds to it. I agree with you. To that end, I was hoping you could join us if you've the time to spare. There are still a few loose ends Ragnfrid and I need to tie up beforehand, so we'll meet you in the palace as soon as we can. Just having you there will make a world of difference. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Anytime you can bring a Kakushu for something, you bring a Kakushu. That's an easy choice. Such a cool throne room. Oh, the Kikirin are here! I'd forgotten about them. Ragnfrid.
So while all agree upon the importance of the ceremony, we recognize that the inclusion of the Crania Lupi will be distressing for many. I too lost family at their hands, and I would never ask others to forgive and forget. But for all their crimes, they were all Amigans like us. None made the decision to side with Garlemald lightly.
I'll bet there were some real assholes who were just looking for an excuse to do some violence, but I think for the most part you're right. Tattooed troublemaker. They had a choice, and they chose to betray us. It's so interesting. Speaking of choice, it's an interesting choice the game made here by tying this to Ul'dah, tying the Alamigo questline to Ul'dah rather than to Doma. I mean, it makes sense, especially in terms of where the aid has been coming from, but it's the ties are different, but I appreciate it. Especially, well, never mind. I'd forgotten about. I'm thinking Stormblood, Doma and Stormblood dealt with Doma and Alamigo, but yeah, Alamigo and Ul'dah already had the tie. I had pretty close ties, so no, never mind. I like this a lot. Mraznun, who among us have not made difficult choices for kith and kin? And do not forget that Fordola chose to stand between us and a primal. Starkwood, what does that have to do with it? You have sad eyes, Starkwood. Yeah, the discussion's underway. Rauban, brothers and sisters, arguing will avail us naught. The fate of Alamigo. Oh, I like that framing with the Alamigan flag right behind him. The fate of Alamigo rests on my shoulders and yours, on those of every man, woman, and child that calls these lands home. I have the anthem playing in my head right now. To uphold our honor, to strive for prosperity, to protect our loved ones. We all know the weight of these responsibilities. 'Twas that selfsame weight which drove many of our people to serve our oppressors, misguided as it was. And though they chose a different, unconscionable path, in the end we all wanted the same thing, to deliver our families from persecution, that they might live to see one more day, because another day in shame and self-hatred was still better than none at all. The regretful dead are survived by their despair, a despair which threatens to drag us all into an abyss from where there is no escape. Know that it surely will if we welcome it into our hearts out of disdain for those we cannot forgive. But we Alamegans will not be so easily defeated. We will stand united and conquer this menace. He's saying this not with like the raging bull thing. He's saying this with a smile on his face. Arenvald, every Alamegan who fought and died in the hopes that every Alamegan who fought and died did so in the hopes that one day we would be free, and we are free. We are free. By the blood of our fallen brothers and sisters, we are free. Free to lock away the pain and pretend it has no power over us until it festers and takes us in our beds. And free to lay it bare and let it breathe, to acknowledge and to mourn our people at their best and their worst. You have... Holy crap, you got some legit political game, Arenvald. The past is ours to bear, all of it. For ourselves and for future generations. So they needn't suffer like we did. Let us make Al Amigo a nation where no man is left behind. Where he can make all the wrong choices and still be afforded the chance to make a right one. The heaven of second chances. Stark Woad is considering it. That smile. Even the potato smiles. I think these kids are going to be okay. This is incredibly cool. I am loving this questline. I just am. Speak with the Royal Palace Guard. Done. Blasphemy Hunter. We see a lot of important people coming and going around here. Even though I should be used to it by now, I can't help but feel nervous. Understandable. Raban, that went better than any of us could have hoped for. You have my gratitude for your part in the proceedings, but we both know who the real hero of the day was. We do. Arenvald was rocking it. This was all Arenvald's idea, and it was his words that finally won over the naysayers. Now that we have the community leaders on our side, we should have a much easier time convincing the rest of the citizenry. Of course, holding the ceremony is by no means our final objective. No matter what we say, some will refuse to attend. It is my hope, however, that it will still serve to provide a measure of closure for us all, and to ease the plight of the vulnerable and ostracized. Speaking of which, you will recall the incident with Fordola and Alagana. The young girl she saved and her mother wished to thank you personally. Considering what happened last time, though, I have reservations. It would be a valuable opportunity to present a former skull in a more positive light. On the other hand, I don't need to tell you how unpredictable she can be, and that's before taking her echo into consideration. But that's a conversation for another day. Go and get some rest. You've earned it. I am excited for that. And that's going to be the final one, right? No, 89. Okay. No, there's an 89 and a 90. Okay. So I'm going to wrap it up there, and next time we will do the last couple of quests then for the roll quests. Thanks for watching. See you all later. Bye-bye.